They've gone mad. They've completely changed how leveling works in WoW Remix, the new time-running Pandemonium event coming in 10.2.7 that we had no idea what it was about, but now we know, and we know it is about super fast leveling, a complete overhaul of gearing, cosmetic rewards, and having access to endgame content way earlier in your leveling progression. What do I mean about all of this? Let's check it out. Similar to the Plunderstorm limited time event, the WoW Remix is actually the same thing, where for a limited time we will have access to this particular way of leveling, which is very different than what you might think, because you might associate it with the Chromie time leveling process, which is not that different from it, but it is significantly something else. First of all, to be able to access WoW Remix, you only need a subscription. You don't need to have Dragonflight owned or anything like that, just have a subscription. I don't know if the base game is required or not. Probably, I don't know if you can download the game without owning the base game, if that's still a thing. Either way, the investment cost is particularly very low. It won't be free like a lot of people have asked Plunderstorm to be, but I don't think this should be free content either. Now, that aside, obviously, since it's only going to be requiring a subscription, pretty much everybody can play it, classic and retail players alike, and it is only for a limited amount of time, after which it will go away. The details of this are not yet disclosed, so we don't know how long it will last, but reading their blue post about it and kind of trying to probably read in between the lines, it will last as long as War Within is coming out, and most likely this is a content that is made to hype up the War Within, because it adds that level of FOMO that a lot of people are accustomed to when it comes to seasonal games, and maybe this is a little bit on the nose, sure, it's a little bit FOMO, but at the same time, it's the good kind of FOMO. It's the kind that, oh my god, this is so fun, let's get it going. We don't have that much content in Season 4, so let's actually play WoW Remix, and especially what it does to the end game and the gearing and leveling process altogether. So now that we know what it is, how do you actually get into it? When you create a new character, we suspect, since we don't have access to it as of right now, since it's not yet up on the PTR, you'll be able to select a specific WoW Remix type character that you'll be playing only in the WoW Remix event, and it will start at level 10. Once the event is done, this character can be converted to an actual live retail character and hopefully being played in the War Within with all of the acquired goodies and cosmetics that you have gotten throughout the entirety of this event. Once you have your character, you'll be able to hop into the game, and apparently Eternus is going to guide you through Mists of Pandaria to the Timeless Isle, and then you'll be able to play through its content in its entirety at an accelerated pace. Part of your journey will be also the leveling cloak, which we don't have all of the details on how it's going to be unlocked just yet, but you remember the legendary cloak in Mists of Pandaria, and this is the WoW Remix version of it. It's not the same one, obviously. You cannot ever replace the original legendary cloak, but it will be a very, very strong cloak. It kind of has the text of an heirloom, because it will gain power as you level up through this event, and it will apply to all of your future characters that you're going to be running through WoW Remix, which makes this a great experience to actually play a lot of alts and share that power kind of like account-wide, most likely being in tune with the upcoming warband system that we're going to be having in War Within. The cloak is all nice and good, but you want that legendary effect that the cloak used to have back in MoP, and you will through toys. You'll be able to acquire toys throughout this event, and each specific toy will give you the specific animation for that specific role, since we had New Zod that gave you the tank effect, and Chi-Ji the healer effect, and so on and so forth. And the toy essentially will be giving you an 8-hour buff that will occasionally pop that wing animation on your back, giving you that nostalgic feeling of going back to MoP and having the cloak, which is a really cool ode to bring back the nostalgia of people playing through MoP, and for people like me who have never played it, it's going to be a really fun first new experience. Now that you have your character and you're progressing through the content, what is the actual content of WoW Remix and why you should care about it? First of all, you're going to be leveling way faster, so if you have any alts that you still haven't leveled up, classes that you've never played, this is the perfect time to do it, because it's going to be faster and it's going to be a unique experience. Take everything that you like about Chromie Time and scale it up forward. The entire loot system is going to be overhauled. You'll be able to get cool loot with cool appearances, mop appearances, recolors of all sets, stuff that you haven't been able to obtain yet so far through pretty much everything: chests, mobs, rares, quests, bosses, because you will be doing dungeons and raids. And let's actually talk about that real quick, because we do have a table of content that they've released, kind of giving you a sense of how the content will be accessible as you level up. Now we know that you will start from level 10 and journey all the way to level 70. So unlike Chromie Time, you won't stop at the expansion level so that you can then proceed to leveling through the expansion content. No, you don't need to play Dragonflight if you just want to get to max level. You can just do the whole thing within WoW Remix, and you will start with Jade Forest, as you would expect from a mob content. And it seems like from the table, if we're going to read between the lines, that Jade Forest is going to be relevant up until level 70. Hopefully what that means is that the mobs will give you experience and relevant loot, but they don't actually scale with your character, since the progression for your character will feel less impactful if the mobs also get stronger as you level up. This is a complaint that we've had for a long time with level scaling or zone scaling with World of Warcraft, which would be particularly amazing if that's the case. You'll also have access to dungeons like Temple of the Jade Serpent, Scarlet Monastery and Halls, Colomance, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through all of them, but what you will be interested in knowing is that the first raid, Mogushan Vault, is going to be available as early as level 25. No longer will raids be a max level type content, which is one of the biggest mind-blowing things. There's one more, so stay tuned, but this is one of the biggest mind-blowing things about the game, because it's not actually that mind-blowing if you really think about it. Plenty of other MMOs have done this in the past, and ARPGs and so on and so forth, where you can actually have access to endgame and still level your character, make leveling meaningful. And as you level, you'll also increase your gear, but we're gonna get to that in a second. But Mogushan Vaults is going to be available from level 25 all the way to 70. Pretty much the entirety of the content scales this way. Heart of Fear from level 35, Terrace of Endless Springs for 40, Throne of Thunder from level 50, and Siege of Orgrimmar from level 60. Presumably you'll be able to acquire XP as you do these raids as well. And at level 70 you'll have access to heroic raids. I just thought they're gonna do raids as a fun thing. Listen, you can also do the raids, they were a part of the content, but you also have access to heroic raids. This means that this is an entire game in and of itself. Think of it as a version of classic servers for MOP, but you'll actually be playing the content. Now, there's a couple of questions that we don't have the answers to. By the time you watch this video, maybe they will clarify these on Twitter or on some other blue posts. But does this mean that you'll be able to queue with your friends for these raids, with other people doing WoW Remix, or will you be able to do LFGs, looking for group, looking for more? Will you also be able to queue with NPCs? Because remember that we now have a system in Heroic Dungeons called Follower Dungeons, where you can queue up with NPC scripted players to play actual Dragonflight dungeons and content, which is great. It's a neat little AI thing that you can do, and maybe these will translate into the raids. I don't know how mechanics will be played by AIs, and I don't know if they've scripted them to handle everything that goes on in a raid. I would probably be a little bit surprised if it actually works that way, but if it does, that is amazing for people to be able to actually do the raid content and not have to be in a guild or not have to have a lot of people going through it. But most likely all the raids will be queuable, maybe with the exception of the heroic raids. We don't know yet, but that essentially just means once again that you'll have access to endgame content as you level up, and you don't have to reach max level. This makes leveling more impactful, more meaningful, and it matters everything you do every step of the way. And let's talk about gearing, which is the other mind-blowing thing that's going to happen. They specifically mentioned that they're overhauling the entirety of the gear system within the WoW Remix event. You'll still be able to loot gear as normal, you'll be able to upgrade gear as normal, and two of the coolest things that are going to happen are, one, you're going to have vendors that you can sell gear to if it's not the gear that you want, for a currency called bronze, and that bronze currency can be used to upgrade the gear that you do want, or be able to be used to purchase cosmetics from items that you haven't looted yet, which is fantastic because we've been asking for gear vendors for years. And most likely you're going to be able to buy probably mountain pets and other stuff, since those are also available to be obtained during this WoW remix. So it's all a whole collect fiesta going on, and it's just pure cosmetics at the end of the day. Now, the other part of the mind-blowing gearing system are the meta gems, because you're not just gonna loot items. Sure, we do that every day in WoW. We now have meta gems, and they're not just the boring add +5 stamina or crit to your gear. They will actually have unique effects and even give you access to certain spells, which is fan-freaking-tastic. They've probably laid the groundwork for this with stuff like Torghast, with the Cobalt Assembly, maybe even with Plunderstorm, where you loot spell effects and put them into gear or put them on your bars one way or another, which completely changes how you will level up. It's looking like you're going to be like an overpowered beast of a monster, which at this point, it's all about just having fun in WoW. Who cares about balance and tuning and all of that? And the powers are crazy, and there's so many of them. I cannot and will not, list all of them on the screen right now, but there are powers that transform you into an orb that explodes all around you, give you specific stats, shield absorbs that reflect damage, and all of the cool stuff that most likely you've enjoyed playing with in past versions of game modes that we've had in WoW. And that just makes leveling a whole new beast, completely revamped, and I cannot believe that they're actually doing this, something that we have been talking about for years. And similar to Plunderstorm, similar to what they've said initially about Torghast, this is very likely a testing ground for new endgame systems. Will we have this for other expansions like Legion or Wrath of the Lich King, or maybe any type of classic era gameplay? And everything is on the table. Will this system of gearing, where you upgrade, where you have vendor, where you have access to raids early on in the leveling process, will this be translated into the future of WoW? It probably all revolves around the feedback that they received regarding this entirety of event, and it's definitely something that you don't want to miss, because it is limited time. We don't know how long it will last, and this should be the main reason you're coming back to WoW. And if this isn't enough, or if you want more and you want more retail, we already covered some of the main reasons why you would like to come back to Season 4, because this is not the only thing that changed, but Season 4 has remade the dungeons, and we have access to all of the dungeons and all the raids in Dragonflight so far. It's looking like a pretty nutty time to play World of Warcraft.